This course, Educational Psychology for Non-Teachers, has been extremely eye-opening, taking an in-depth look at psychology within the education field. In the beginning of the course, we started by discussing what we all thought was the definition of educational psychology. Personally, I defined it as a field that studies students in an educational setting. I also mentioned how I thought it was about effective ways of teaching students and knowing when something is non-effective. After working my way through the course, I see it is much more than I originally thought. For the rest of Lesson 1, we looked at the history of educational psychology and what has helped to form it into what it is today. During Lesson 2, we focused on the different teaching theories and learning styles. We learned about behaviorism, social learning theory, cognitive learning theory, constructivism, and social constructivism. In the reading, we read how each of these has their own ways of teaching. For example, constructivism says that the students lead their own learning. On the other hand, the cognitive learning theory, which is similar, states that students should have the lead, but they are guided, monitored, or supported by a teacher. Also, in week 2, we conducted interviews with 2 teachers or other educators to see what theory they believe in the most and which one they tend to follow in their own classroom. For Lesson 3, the main focus was on getting students motivated to learn. We read articles that had tips for how to get learners engaged and eager to learn. The class discussed different ways that commercials and other advertisements draw people in to get them motivated to purchase their products or watch their new show. For our major assignment, we had to observe for 2 30-minute time frames in a classroom or other educational setting. During the observation, we were looking for motivational theories that were being implemented. Also, we were making notes of how the students interacted with each other, as well as how they interacted with the teacher. It was nice to be in a classroom and watch how everyone functioned. Next, in Lesson 4, we learned about multicultural education. In this module, we discussed the importance of meeting all our students' cultural needs from a diverse group of students. It was important to know there are many ways for students to be culturally diverse, not just based on skin color or native language. The main assignment during Lesson 4 was a cultural plunge. For this assignment, we were to choose one way that is different from our normal life. Examples were going to a church of a different religion from your own, getting around in a wheelchair if you have the ability to use your legs on a regular basis, or listening to an event in a foreign language. I chose to walk around a store blind with a walking stick to get a feel for how it would be if I was blind. It was a very scary experience, and I had a difficult time trusting my walking stick and actually being able to move my feet. Overall, I think the cultural plunge was a great experience that allowed us to step outside our comfort zone and have a little fun with the assignment. Then, in Lesson 5, the main topic was assessments. We read some pros and cons on standardized tests and also the difference in evaluations and assessments. We also talked about different types of assessments, such as the difference between formative assessments, which are used to check a student's progress while learning material, and summative assessments, which are used after learning takes place to ensure learning and understanding happened. In the discussion, we were able to reflect and tell each other our opinion on the use of standardized tests. Then we were to observe an assessment taking place in a classroom and discuss with the educator to learn what they used that assessment for. From this lesson, I realized the importance of switching up ways to review for a test in order for it to appeal to each student and help them to refresh their memory. In Lesson 6, we focused on intelligence and intelligence testing. During this week, we looked at how intelligence is formed. Is it a product of nature or nurture? We found that it is an interaction between both. We also learned that intelligence is continually developing. As part of the discussion, we talked about how different cultures view intelligence in different ways, that not all cultures define intelligence in the same way, and they do not all measure it in the same way either. For this major assignment, we had to research 3 scholarly articles from the Arizona State University website library that talked about human intelligence, human ability, and culture. Once we found 3 articles, we had to read them and critique them, writing an essay to compare and contrast the information within the articles. Finally, in Lesson 7, we learned about learners with disabilities or difficulty learning. Part of this lesson was learning how to communicate with someone who has a disability. From the article, we learned to always treat the person with dignity and respect. Do not group people of similar disabilities together, but rather treat them as the individual that they are. Shake their hand when being introduced. Do not be afraid to ask questions. Relax and treat them like a person because that is what they are. Do not let the disability define who someone is. Also in this week, we put all our major assignments for weeks 1 through 6 together into one document and added a few reflection pieces for week 7 to create our signature assignment for this course. In the reflection part, we mentioned what we are taking away from this course, if our perception of educational psychology has changed, what we will use in our future careers, and some memorable moments from this course, as well as what we think are some challenges for this field and how they may be fixed. I had a great time taking this course and really learned a lot from each week.